On this week's episode of Three Dad Bods.
Now let's talk about housing, though. That's where things are a little crazy. So, what's the average medium house cost today?
$500,000.
500,000?
Yeah, about 350 to 400 is actually about 400 is the median price right now as of today. 1980. This would probably be expensive in Utah.
Sarcastic, witty, and not afraid to mix it up. Pop open a cold one and welcome to Three Dad Bods.
Well, there's a couple others that I wanted to mention, and
Cool.
I'll just throw a few in. Remember those Columbia House mailers?
Oh,
You remember that? Where
I just
for
made
one
my last
penny,
payment. I just
you
made
get
my last
10
payment.
CDs. Yeah. And then all of a sudden your mom comes to you and you're like, Brent, you keep getting this bill from Columbia House. And you're like, what? And it's like $12.99. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money. I don't have $12.99. Your mom's like, that's why you should never sign up for contracts, Brent.
Oh, the
Columbia House screwed it up. Yeah.
Oh, God, they had it made.
The other one, dodgeball.
I
They
can
don't
still
do
hear the
that now.
ping. I can still hear that ping.
Dude, it got literally scary in our ward dodgeball sessions because that court was so small, and everybody would get carpet burns, and you'd always want the strongest guys on your team because
Separate the men from the boys.
Who in the right mind ever
that was
came up
rough.
with the
I mean,
idea of putting
I still have
carpet
PTSD.
in a gym? What? They're in a cultural hall, I guess.
Right?
Well, whose
Yeah.
bright idea was that?
The worst rug burns ever on
My
that
gosh.
floor.
Trying to play
You're right.
basketball?
Water beds.
Tracy and I had a waterbed
I had a
when she was
waterbed.
pregnant.
Have you ever tried to get out of a water bed when you're a big person?
She couldn't get out.
I've never
and
been a big
when she was
person.
pregnant. So, like, to get out to go to the bathroom, I'd have to make a wave for her. She'd ride the wave out.
Okay, I have a question because no one will answer this question. What's it like,
Oh,
in the waterbed? Is that where it
Pretty
the
rocky.
popularity? Yeah, I was gonna say.
but the worst, I don't know if you guys remember, if you had one,
Yeah.
is the first night because you'd have to fill it up with
Cold.
the garden hose, and it was ice cold. It took
Oh.
forever to warm up.
Be good on a summer night, maybe, but wow,
Mm,
that
it's
doesn't
always
sound very
cold.
fun.
Brutal.
So.
Brutal.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember. We had
And they
one of those.
stunk, and sometimes they would stink. You'd
You'd have
walk
to put
into
the
a
stuff
room.
in there. You'd have to put the mold
conditioner.
reducer in there.
Ew.
Yep.
And then one last one, it's station wagons. So you don't see those anymore very often. Well, I guess there's a few
The
companies out there that still make them.
Bachelors. They had that gigantic one with the seat in the very, very back, folded out of the floor and faced rear
I don't
from you.
I don't remember
Oh.
the Bachelors having one of those.
We had the ugliest station wagon in the entire neighborhood.
Who had?
Oh yeah,
Which
they had a
families?
giant station wagon.
Which
And it
families
had
had them?
had the automatic window in the back.
We had one with yellow base and then brown siding. It
Remember
looked
that?
horrible. And then we finally got rid of it because I was in the car with my dad going to work, and some lady just blindsided us. Those suckers were like tanks, though.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
probably never even felt a thing, did you?
oh yeah, it wrapped the frame immediately because it was an Oldsmobile that hit us, but it moved about 3 feet. That was about it. I was like, my dad was a little shocked, I think, more than I was. But yeah, we got rid of that, and then we got the Astro van. But,
The OG
but
of
before that,
minivans.
you guys always forget we drove it all the way to Disneyland one year, where my sister and I would sit in the back and face the other direction, and then you'd make faces at other people on the
Yes.
freeway. Or
Griswolds.
Yes.
then Chevy Chase came out with his vacation movie. That was awesome.
I remember.
You know what?
Brent,
This-
didn't you
this
guys
just
have a
reminds me of a
station wagon
memory.
too, Brent? Because I swear I remember going to.
Yeah,
We had a
no,
Subaru. We had a Subaru. Sean, do you remember this? Do you remember in Scouts, we made puppets
Yeah,
on strings?
yeah, I remember that.
And we went to that special needs home in American Fork. And we were supposed to do a puppet show for them, okay? And as we started doing the puppet show, the people there, and it was an adult special needs home, they freaked out. Like they went nuts. And they started throwing things and screaming. And I remember, I don't know if it was you, Sean, or I was with somebody. We threw the table down and we were hiding behind it.
Oh no!
I remember. I
Oh,
remember.
you scared the hell out of old people.
No, they weren't.
That's
They
funny.
were just special needs
They
adults.
went
But
crazy.
I remember that. Scared the crap
Yes.
out of us.
Huh.
I mean, oh my gosh,
It was great.
that was so funny.
That's funny. Oh, that's good. That's
I
good.
forgot about
We
that.
feared for our lives.
Yeah.
And no, you know what's funny too about that era? No one wore seatbelts. No one. I mean, I remember after some scout meetings where we'd, on Tuesday nights, and then you'd be out in the parking lot with someone's truck in the snow, and then you'd be like, you have a ski rope or pole behind it, and you're doing donuts and swinging us around on the. I'm just like, that's so dangerous, and
Yeah.
we didn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sean, tell us.
What we have now that we didn't have then.
Oh, well, things that we have now, the internet. What are some of the good things that come along with, and the bad things that come along with that? So you've got the Encyclopedia Britannica is now online. You don't have to go to your bookshelf and look up 20 different books to try to find anything. Google, right? You used to have to go to the card catalog at the
Yeah.
library to go look anything up, right? What else?
You just look on your phone.
No, now you just look on your
Immediately.
phone. But even
That's actually better than the 80s.
that's way better. I mean, the televisions go. I've got an 86-inch television on the wall. That I mean, can you imagine, Brent, when you were offloading your the LCDs that you have nowadays? I mean,
You'd have to have, if it was 80 inches, you would have to have like
it would have to be a
crane
crane.
to lift that thing out.
Well, it would be as big as your house.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
tubes that would have to have been in there. Yeah, crazy. Super crazy.
Your electric bill would have been $700 a month on something like that too.
Well, they probably are now anyway. But back then, yeah, it would have been $3,000.
Yeah, back then, yeah.
Fuel
What
injection
about-
on your cars.
What about Bluetooth? Like the ability
Bluetooth?
to have speakers everywhere, like anywhere you want. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There was some cool stuff. Like I remember one year, Glenn and I, we had this big idea. We were, I don't know, it was in the 80s sometime, and I said, wouldn't it be cool if you had real miniature tanks and airplanes, and you could remotely fly them around, and you could see who you're attacking? And then they come out with drones. And then
Yeah.
everybody's got a drone now. It's like common stuff. And you think, you would have never imagined that you could do some of these things that we always thought would be, wow, wouldn't that be cool back in the 80s
Okay.
if someday we could
So
do
here's a
that.
question.
And now they do.
Have you ever
Know
seen
what-
have you ever seen a
knowing-
drone show?
Knowing what you know now about yourself as a teenager, if you had the technology like a drone, what would you have been doing with it in the 80s if you could have? I know
Back when at that time?
you would have been
Well,
flying it over somebody's
look, I'm
house,
just glad there weren't
catching
cell
them.
phone cameras back when I was a teenager.
Yeah. Who's laying out today? Okay. Zzz. Yep. Right, you were going to say something. I cut you off.
You okay, Carl? Oh,
I
no,
accidentally cut off my mic there. Sorry.
I was wondering if you guys have ever seen them drone shows, where like they'll have like 1,000 drones up in the air and they do these shapes and stuff and they spin around. It's really cool if you've ever seen one before. Awesome.
I don't.
They'll do
I
like
don't
a
think
guy
I've seen
walking
it.
in the air and stuff. Really neat.
Well, they do some of the in Utah, of course, because this is pretty popular. LDS temples. There's some guys that have done some really good like real estate videos and flyovers around the temple or up in the canyon. My son has a drone, and he was up at American Fork Canyon last weekend, and he took some really good shots. So yeah, drones are a game changer when it comes to videography and videos. I mean, you used to have a helicopter. How expensive those were to fly around and get some of those flyover shots that you see sometimes now.
I was in
So
one.
things, what, in a helicopter? Or
Hmm.
where was
Yep.
that at?
I worked for an ad
Hawaii?
agency, and no, it was here in Nashville, and we were doing
Mm-hmm.
property assessment. It was one of those old news helicopters with the bubble.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome. I loved it, man. It's so cool.
That would have been, that could have been pretty exciting, actually,
It
when
was
you
it
think
was
about it.
awesome,
So,
man. Very
well,
cool.
can you think of anything else, Sean?
The internet's the biggest thing. Just all the technology that goes into all of the cell phones. And the cell phones started coming out when we were in high school, right? So I remember I can't remember, there was
Mm-hmm.
a kid whose dad had
Yeah,
a
the big
construction
blocks.
company and he had a phone in his truck, but it was it was a wall phone, but it was in the console area of the truck or something. It was, yeah, now everybody's got one of these. It's crazy.
What? And I think the world owes Al Gore a big thanks for inventing the
Yeah, thank
internet.
you, Al Gore.
Yeah, absolutely. We You know what's funny though? You guys asked me to look into something too. What's changed in terms of prices? And that was an interesting question. I was looking into that, and I came across some real surprises though. I thought everything was going to be costing much more. Obviously with this inflation in the last few years, and then even at 2 or 3 or normal 5% inflation, prices over 30 years change quite dramatically usually. So, but I was looking at this chart when I was doing some research for this cast, and okay, let's play a game here. All right, what's the average gallon of gas right now? Is about what, $3.50 to $4, right?
Yeah.
I paid
Do you guys agree with
281.
that? Okay, well, I mean, it
No,
varies
but
wherever
but
you're
that's
at.
correct. That's correct. That's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah. In 1980, guess how much it was?
I
89
would
cents.
say 57 cents.
No, it was a little higher actually.
89.
It was under a
Dollar
dollar.
25.
Was
But
it?
you got to account for New York and California, guys. So yeah, $1.25, right? So I mean, it's difference of about 180%. Now, average inflation, you'd probably think it'd be a little higher gas. That's why I think right now our gas prices really aren't that high compared to what they were back in 1980 when you take into account inflation.
It depends on where you are, though. In California, they're incredibly high.
Now let's
Like,
talk about housing, though. That's where
mm,
things are a little crazy. So, what's the average medium house cost today?
500,000.
500,000? Yeah.
Yeah, about 350 to 400 is actually about 400 is the median price right now as of today. 1980. This would probably be expensive in Utah.
20,000.
I would
50
say,
grand.
really?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I would say they're lower than that because I remember when Matt bought his house in 93, he got it for like 63,000.
yeah. So there's a difference of 600%. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
huge.
I would
So
say that's probably
housing's
the
gone
larger
up
one of the
a
largest
lot.
things,
My
isn't it?
first house,
Home prices.
I paid 70,000 for my first house, and it was built in 1939. And yeah, and I sold it. I remember I sold it for 150,
Mm.
and I thought, holy cow, I can't believe I'm getting this
They
much.
probably built that house for $5,000 back in 19.
Probably less.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
probably built that house for like 2 or 3,000
Mhm.
back in
Yep,
1939.
probably.
But remember too, homes were made and built so everybody could have a home. That was the whole premise of homes. Through that building boom in the 90s, everybody could have a home, and it's not like that anymore at all.
Okay, so for cars, this is the
Mm.
one that yeah, I was a little surprised, but okay, 2023, the average new car, if
60.
you have to get
50,
40 to 60,
50,000. Yeah.
right? It's well, if you get an actual gas powered car, yeah, it's still about 40.
The
But
electric ones, I
if you
think,
get those
start
EV
around
cars, you have to pay
70.
a little more. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, in 1980, guess how much they were for a brand new car?
8,000.
3,500.
Nope. Huh. 8,000. Yep. Sean's right. Yep. About 8,000. 79.99. I remember this for a
Wow.
Mustang, at the local Ford dealership. So, yeah. So not quite as much as the houses, but We're getting
Yeah,
there.
but I mean, we were also
Okay,
making
gallon of
minimum
milk
wage was
in what's the
335,
cost?
325 an hour, and now it's like
Yeah,
15.
that's
I
right.
don't know.
That's right.
Now it's like seven
Sean, how
fifty.
much? So, which two of you have gone shopping with your wife recently? What's a gallon of milk cost? If you guys don't know, I'll call you George
350.
Bush Senior.
Like 220, $3.
No, no, three. Sean's right on the money again. 350. And then what did it cost back in 1980? This is going to shock you a little bit.
Buck
Probably
25.
not too much different. Maybe 250 a buck.
Buck 25.
$1.50. So that's so compared to the previous three I mentioned, that's actually gone up the least. So this is the one that that kind of flipped me out. I was like, "Are you kidding?" So in 2023, a flight from New York to LA costs about how much? One way,
600.
One way or round trip?
or I guess you could do either
800?
one.
800?
650.
One way is 300. No, it's about 300 actually one way. Just depends on who you go.
I
But
know from here to Salt Lake, round trip is 800.
one way is 300 according to this, and I've actually seen that. JetBlue, you
Yeah.
can go for $300. 1980, how much was one way?
300.
I have no idea.
No, 500.
Yeah.
So it was like $200 more. It cost $1,000 to go round
But
trip from
yeah,
New
you
York
know
to
why?
LA.
Because
back
The
in
difference
1980.
with that is you only had like 3 airlines. You
What's
had less
that?
flight. You had less flights than like 3 airlines back in 1980.
Right, but
regulated.
they also did more
They were
too. You would have an actual meal
Oh, it
instead
was
of.
an event.
Government regulations on the airlines
Sean's
were
right. They were
huge.
regulated.
And when the deregulation of the airlines came through, prices went down a lot because then they weren't being forced to do specific things. And yeah, anytime the government deregulates something, the pricing goes down. So, yep.
Well, what's more important though is you guys got to
Miss
remember
those
too.
meals.
Even though it's only $300 round or single way, it's even when you look at how much the dollar's worth now versus then. I mean, it's even more of a savings because back, I mean, $500 was a lot of. I mean, that's a lot of money back in 1980. Where $300, I mean, you earn that one day. Where it'd take you months to earn that kind of money at a regular job back in 1980. I mean, it's like personal computers, Sean. You remember that? How much was it for a personal computer
Like-
that was very subpar to what
like
we have now?
$2,000,
for a
two and a
whole
half
system.
$1,000. Yeah, it was quite a bit. Now you get them for $300.
And what can you get for $500
Oh,
now?
Really pretty decent
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
So it's an 83% markdown.
Yeah, so but again, it's one of those things where
then, Brent-
if the government stays out of it, pricing goes down. It's like your TV, this 86-inch TV that I
Yeah.
got on that I was saying earlier about. It was I think it was like $1,200 or $1,500 or
Yeah.
something. You know, even 10 years ago when plasmas came
Yeah.
out, it was
Yeah, now it's
$5,000
$200.
for a 30-inch. You know, so yeah, totally different. If the government was in charge of any
Well,
of
it's
that,
like
it would
when-
be 10 grand.
Well, it's like a microwave. You can go into any Walmart and get a microwave for less than $100.
You can get
Yeah.
one for $25.
You can go on KSL.com and get it for $20, right? And you'd pay $500 or $400 back in the 80s
Yeah.
for a microwave, and your mom would
Wow.
be.
I remember the first microwave that my mom got. It was like life had
That was
been
cool.
reinvented, you know?
This
You
is
mean
like this
This
is
thing that
like
would
George
take 40
Jetson.
minutes to cook only takes 3 minutes?
George Jetson.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was amazing.
So sometimes we get all caught up and like we'll be around the water cooler at work and bitching about how expensive everything is. But in reality, new technology costs a lot of money for development and when you first introduce it. But over time, it actually makes things more available to people who make less money, which is equalizer. The things that are costing us more now, though, are like these assets like homes and cars or vehicles, which is kind of questionable if a vehicle is an
It's
asset.
not.
But
Do you guys remember? Do you guys remember that movie Wedding Singer,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
the guy's talking about he got this new thing that plays CDs. His CD
Oh, yeah.
players, it's like gigantic, and it only cost me $4,000. You know?
Yeah, and you get them for $25 now.
Yes.
I don't even think some stores carry them anymore. You can't even get them.
Nope. Nope.
So anyway, yeah, the '80s were. I don't know why. I mean, maybe that was our era, and it always
It's us.
feels special to us. But I'm sure there were some weird things about the '80s. What was the weirdest thing you remember about the '80s that you're kind of glad that isn't the case
Parachute
anymore?
pants.
Something that gratefully died.
Uh,
Oh yeah, yeah. Parachute pants for the
Corduroys.
worst.
I would think Sean would have said perms.
Oh yeah, Sean always had a new perm.
No,
That stuff smelled gross too. When you'd go into the barber shop,
I only got a perm
it's like,
once,
oh,
and it
oh.
wasn't done.
Did your mom or was
It wasn't done right. It wasn't done the way I wanted it. It was supposed to be loose, these big curls, And you know who did my perm? It was Anita Tanner. Yeah, no, she did it in these tight curlers.
Here to talk, Brent. I always thought you had a perm.
God gave me my perm.
Okay.
I had naturally
All right.
curly hair.
I only
so
contemplated
it made
getting
it
a
worse.
perm once, and then I was like, no.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be cool like Scott Vance.
Makeup. What was weird is, well, we'll talk about rock music. The guys that would, what they call it? Hair metal?
Bands.
Those guys look more female than the female
Oh, yeah.
groupies that
Bret
would hang out and
Michaels,
worship them.
David Bowie.
Okay, let's see. Candy cigarettes.
And apple beer.
Oh, it's kind of a good thing they died. I mean, I thought we were cool.
Big League Chew.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's so nasty, man. It's so
Big
bad
League
for
Chew
you.
was good. It was so juicy for like 5 minutes, and then it became a rock in your mouth,
And you pull some more out.
Yes,
Pretend that you're really chewing,
stringy
right?
and all that. Little 12-year-old out there. My
That actually was a thing in, I think, high school. Chew, the real chew.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm so happy that that's died. I don't see any
not
of
in
the
the
kids
South.
do that. What's that?
It's alive and well in the South. Everybody dips.
Oh, is it? All the kids do.
Everybody dips.
Oh,
Yes.
geez, that's gross, man.
Yes. Everybody. By the way, dip. Best thing for a bee sting or a hornet bite.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. But
It is.
yeah, especially when they spit in a big gulp cup that's clear. That I had a partner that used to do that in the mortgage business, and he'd come to work every day, and
Your bottle?
he'd go through a can of chew every day, and just that
a
sucker
lot.
looked like black
That's a
shit.
lot.
It was horrible. I'm sure his jaw's gonna, they're gonna
Yeah.
have to remove it
It'll
eventually.
get you. No, in the South, it's huge. And like I was saying, I remember our youngest. We were at a baseball tournament, and she got stung by a bee, and she was screaming, and it swole up and everything. And one of the baseball coaches, he pulled dip right out of his lip, slapped it on there, and like she looked up at him, and it stopped just like that. The pain
Holy
stops
cow.
immediately. Yeah, it's
Oh,
the
that's
real
kinda
deal.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, they use tobacco for cattle, right? For wounds,
Wounds.
and
Bruises.
Not just cattle,
Yeah.
but like human wounds. Yeah.
It's
Right.
good for the skin. Yeah.
So tobacco's not all bad, right? So there you go. See, well, all right. Well, it's been a fun subject today. I was doing the research. I'm like, there's no way we can talk for an hour about what happened in the '80s, because the '80s were an amazing time.
We
But
could probably go another
as far
3
as
hours, Carl.
this country too. Yeah, we never even talked about the politics or the history of what happened in the '80s. And there's some significant things that changed our world, like the Berlin Wall going down, Ronald Reagan, and Brett was talking about sports. Some of the things that even to this day have affected how we do things now. So significant time period in our history. But anyway,
Mr.
No, it's been
Gorbachev,
great.
tear down this wall.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. So
Yeah,
anyway, it's
yeah,
been
we'd
fun.
love to hear
It's
from
fun.
both of our listeners. That'd be awesome, man. Like, give us some ideas and stuff. We'd love to hear that.
What do you miss?
Yeah, we should have a poll like who had the best hair of our neighborhood in the 80s.
Oh, dude, that was me, hands down. I had that sun in at the bottom of my mullet.
Yeah. Oh. You never wore a shirt. I know that. You just walk around half naked all the time like a freaking cave
dude, man,
person.
it's the best, man. Best time. Shorts.
Dude, I didn't.
That was it.
I didn't.
You
I
were
always had
pasty.
sunburn.
That's why. You were pasty.
I know. I was a pasty warrior, man. Yeah. So I didn't see Sean running around without a shirt either.
Because
Mark, Matt, and I would you could watch us like a chameleon out there, just brown.
I was always jealous. You'd get so tan.
Great episode, guys.
Grease.
Wonderful. And again,
Yeah.
listeners, both of you guys, we'd love to hear any things that we may have missed. That's a terrible show. My wife loves that show, and I hate it. Hate
Which show?
Grease. Grease.
Oh, yeah.
Terrible
Yeah.
show.
I don't mind it. I mean, John Travolta looks kind of dorky in it, but you know,
Terrible.
Why are you worrying about what
Terrible
John
show.
Travolta looked like?
I like her though. I was more
Olivia
concerned about
Newton-John.
let's get physical. Come on and get physical. Let me hear your body talk.
Please don't ever do that again, Carl. Don't ever
That was
do
hot,
that again.
man. I was excited.
I was afraid you were going to start taking
Oh,
his
hey,
shirt
before
off
we
or
go,
something.
I will announce it. I had a hot date last night, so the
I thought
audience.
you weren't going to mention that.
Well, no, I'm not going to go into details. I don't kiss and tell, but it was a fun date. She's a really nice lady. She could probably straighten my ass out, which I need desperately. You guys will be happy to know that there's some progress being made. So this will definitely be a second date. And I met her about 3 weeks ago online. It is a little bit of a distance. I don't know if you've ever been to Monticello, but it is kind of a drive.
Thomas Jefferson's home?
Yeah, I wish. No. It's actually a pretty little community. It's up in kind of the mountains a little bit, just above Moab. So it's close to Moab. So that yeah. But anyway, just want to I want to do it at the end so you guys don't incessantly tease me the entire podcast. So strategic.
Well, good for you, Carl.
You know what Moab
Hope it
is
works
famous
out.
for?
Yeah, I do too.
Biblically, you know what Moab is famous for?
Jeeps?
In the Bible, Moab.
Jeeps.
No,
Arches.
they were famous for being incestuous. So is that still going on in the one in southern
really?
Utah? Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yep. That's why
You're into that Sodom and Gomorrah action,
that's why
Sean. I know that.
that's why the Jewish people hated the Moabites, because they were considered corrupt, because their
It's like
origins
what Sodom
were
and
the two daughters that tricked the dad into sleeping with them. Yeah, that's the Moabites.
They were
Oh.
basically Alabama.
Yep.
Alabama, there you go. That's bad. That's
Yep.
bad.
Or
Hey,
Good episode,
one last
guys.
thing. What happened to your Tennessee Vols, bro?
Yeah, it was
wow,
bad.
wow,
Yeah.
they had it exactly where they
The
wanted
Cougs
it.
and Utes won, so that's good. So
Last second field goal.
Yeah.
USC
So-
four
And-
straight
and-
wins over USC.
yeah,
Yeah.
Utes are so awesome. So
Yeah, Caleb's never beaten the Utes. That was quite a finish.
Never
man.
will.
That was pretty.
what was his fingernail polish last night? Did you guys see?
He's such a
He
baby.
didn't. He kept
No,
it as
that's
calm and cool without any bulletin board. You know what though? He is actually a good person. If you look
Yeah.
at the stuff that he's done as a human, as a person, he actually is a pretty good kid.
And
Look at him,
Barnes pulled a rabbit out of his hat that last drive. It was really good.
Pig farmers, baby. Pig farmers.
Pig farmers know how to rock
Shoo-wee.
it. So, all right, boys. You guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to 3 Dad Bods, and make sure to catch their past episodes on Spotify, Apple, and Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure and leave a comment to help stroke their fragile egos.